The thing is, Bob, it's not that I'm lazy. It's that I just don't care. Don't care? It's a problem with motivation, all right? Now, if I work my butt off and Initech ships a few extra units, I don't see another dime. So where's the motivation?
I have heard that.
Okay.
I'm trying to place it.
I need my red stapler.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Um, hmm. Maybe I should jump to some conclusions. Maybe on a mat. Office space.
Yeah, there you go.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non è facile feeling. Spirit is something.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Welcome to episode 17 of the Average Joe's Movie Club cast. This is Justin.
And I'm Joey.
So have you seen Office Space before?
Oh yeah, no, I own it. Multiple. I own it on. I just bought it on Blu-ray like on Black Friday. I have it on DVD. It's actually, as we were just talking about before, we're going to talk about some stuff after the cast about next season. I contemplated sticking it in one of those movie slots for next season. It didn't, but it almost got there.
All right. So it just took you a second to place it there, or?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched it. So it was like in attack, and I was like, well, it just took a while. It was probably wasn't the quote like I was like if you say something from like that movie, like I would have expected something like, hey, do you like kung fu? I love kung fu. Or like, you know who else had pieces of flair? The Nazis. Some of those. Or
Oh, okay.
who sounds like someone has a case of the Mondays. Well, if hey man, has anybody at your job ever told you had a case of the Mondays? Nah, man, no one ever told me that. Someone said that I'd kick their ass. Something like that. Some of those quotes. So.
And this is all coming right off of Joey's head, so that's how well he knows this movie. That's funny. Yeah, I enjoyed the movie, but man, when I started working an office job in a cube, like my appreciation for it like totally went up. And probably a conversation for another day. I love the first half of that movie, but towards the end it kind of falls apart. But anyways, yeah.
And to that point, that's probably why like I resonate with like Clerks and Clerks 2. Working retail, although Clerks 2 is fast food, but just dealing with the public all the time. So, getting called in, I'm not even supposed to be here today, blah, 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 so I feel you there.
All right. So on this episode, we are getting all Lynchy as we do our best to break down director David Lynch's vision of a Hollywood nightmare in his 2001 film, Mulholland Drive. Plus, we'll be singing and about some sweet bloody revenge with Tim Burton's 2000 film adaptation of the musical Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street.
That's 2007, not 2000.
Did I say 2000?
You said 2000.
In the year 2000. Remember when
Calm
that was a thing?
Conan. Oh, no, I love that skit on Conan. That was great.
I think we might have watched that in our dorms back in the day.
Probably.
20 years ago. Jeez Louise.
Hey. 17 years ago.
Rounding up.
You stop aging us by 3 years, man. You stop. If we're rounded down to 15.
All right, you're lying.
Everybody, just a heads up, we do discuss our full thoughts on movies. So if, like, for some reason you're here and we're talking about a movie you haven't seen yet and you want to stay spoiler free, skip ahead. I do try to go in and timestamp them. I've been a little slack lately, so I apologize on that, but I will try to do better. But you just skip ahead and skip those spoilers. Or, hey, if you don't know about the movie and you hadn't seen it and you want our thoughts, maybe we'll give you something and it'll entice you to watch it. Sometimes we hit stuff kind of on the head, or sometimes we're way off.
And chances are with tonight's movie, even if you listen to our rant on it, by the time you watch it, you'll probably have forgotten all that and be totally mind twisted anyways. So if you want to be a part of the club, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And so Joey, how you doing?
Man, I've been doing all right. I have not been watching as many movies lately because I've been kind of in my other passion, which is video games. I have been just neck deep in Bloodborne, and I haven't really been disentranced in a video game in a long time. I bought the DLC. I'm playing that. I'm already contemplating how to play through it again to get all the trophies so I can platinum it. It's nuts, and it's man, I could watch a movie or I could play Bloodborne, and it's nuts. That's what I've been doing. That's that, and I bought a new shelf for my room. And so I rearranged some of my statues and my movie shelf that I bought last year that was a 700 Blu-ray shelf. Mm-hmm. I had to take all of my TV shows off the bottom and put them on this new bookshelf in my room because buying $3 Blu-rays from the pawn shop has started filling up my shelf.
That'll do that.
Yeah. Yes, and I haven't got them yet, but this week I have ordered 3 Criterions, and you're gonna laugh, but I'm super excited for them because I ordered from our Criterion Considered group from 2 different gentlemen. Okay. I ordered RoboCop.
Okay, yeah, I saw that conversation.
Yeah, I ordered The Life of Brian.
Okay.
And I ordered Armageddon.
Nice.
Yes. So for the DVDs that are a OOP that I really, really want, I've got all of them now because I already have The Rock. And so later this week.
How much did you pay for Armageddon?
Well, because me and Carl went in, so I got Armageddon, Life of Brian, Brazil, and Spartacus for $30 for all 4 of those.
But there's a Brazil Blu-ray.
Yes, Brazil. That's a Blu-ray. It was a Brazil Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those all 4 of those. But Spartacus and Brazil were for Carl, so we split that. So we paid half and half. So I guess I bought 2 DVDs for $15, so $7.50 a piece. And then I paid with shipping $11 for RoboCop.
Yeah, that RoboCop DVD, that'd be cool to have. There's a used bookstore here in town that last time I was in there, they had quite a few of those Armageddons, so that's why I was wondering how much you pay for it. Do you still have a Barnes & Noble in Florence?
We do have a B&N, and that's where I go during the sales to hit the blues. I wish we had a second in Charles, so I go up to Columbia every once in a while to hit that up, the pawn shop, or I go to second in Charles. I look through the DVDs furiously for The Killer and Hard Boiled. Because I don't know anything specifically about the movies. I don't really know anything about the plot. I just know they're John Woo. Mm-hmm. I know that they're probably badass. Having seen MI2 and I feel like something else I don't remember. But so yeah, those are the last 2 DVDs right now that are that aren't Kurosawa's, that are hard on my list that I want from Criterion. So that's what's been going on with me.
Nice.
So
Yeah, our Barnes and Noble actually went out of business, so have to be canceling that membership, and not sure what I'll do for sale time. I guess I could order it online. I ordered a bunch of movies online there during the sale because it was free shipping with the membership. So to figure out if that basically equated to like one free movie by actually having the membership. So to figure that out. Yeah, I'm also a little behind on movies. I've had Boy Scouts galore the last month or so. I've been on 4 different, well, technically 3 campouts. One of the campouts, my kid was sick, so we only went up for the day. So doing a lot of camping. Been working on Pinewood Derby cars. I got paint all over my hands because I bought this really nice oil-based paint that the problem is it sticks on your hands. I'll have to use probably gasoline to get it off. And then I went through this whole Boy Scout leadership program called Wood Badge, which was a great experience. So been doing a lot of outdoor stuff. Been enjoying that. Found a new podcast. I was all caught up on, I listen to the Criterion Creeps every week, and so I needed another podcast to kind of tide me over. So I was searching around on my app, and I found the Leonard Maltin podcast, and he has a huge amount of episodes, and I've really enjoyed listening to him. Like he started off where he would do like themes, like he would recommend like a movie he really liked, one he didn't, and maybe one that you hadn't heard of within that theme. And then later on, he does basically like interviews with famous actors and directors and stuff. So yeah, the Leonard Maltin podcast. It's a good listen right there. And so let's get into. You ready with a movie game pick this week, Joey?
Yeah. I was scrambling because I thought we were going to be ready a lot sooner. Turns to find out I could have thought about this probably a lot longer, but I think you'll appreciate these 2 movies.
Okay.
So, which would you rather watch?
Mm-hmm.
No Country for Old Men.
Okay.
Or There Will Be Blood.
I'd go with There Will Be Blood. Just because I watched No Country a couple months ago. I've actually watched There Will Be Blood. I guess it's probably been 1.5 to 2 years ago. So it's been pretty recent on that one too. Yeah, those are 2 really solid. I mean, they came out the same year. They were competing for the Oscar, and then No Country won. But yeah, just in terms, I've seen There Will Be Blood a whole lot more. I've only seen No Country, I think, twice. I saw it in the theater, and I liked it a lot more when I saw it and analyzed it a few months ago. So what would you pick?
Both of those movies I've only seen once. Both right after they came out on Blu-ray.
Okay.
I definitely would pick between those 2 No Country. 1, because I liked it more than There Will Be Blood, and then 2, because I want to watch No Country again, because when that came out, that was, I've always liked movies, but definitely in the last couple of years between living with Carl and us doing the podcast and the movies that we've watched doing this, my cinematic horizons have expanded, and I would like to go back to that one. But I didn't find anything out of There Will Be Blood. Like as great as DDL is, it didn't do anything for me. So I would pick No Country. Also having my recent how much I loved The Big Lebowski and Fargo, so with the Coens being the directors, like I should go back to this movie also because of that.
Okay. A lot of people describe There Will Be Blood as Paul Thomas Anderson's Kubrick movie, and I don't think you like Kubrick too much, so that might have something to do with that.
I mean, maybe so. Maybe you're onto something there.
I was melting down at work today. I was like, so you've seen Dr. Strangelove, but The Killing's still your favorite?
I mean, I saw Doctor Strangelove well before I saw The Killing. I saw The Killing last year, and I saw Strangelove the year before, because the Doctor Strangelove was in my countdown, my big countdown to 1,000, where I saw like all these big classics. So and then that's where I saw Casablanca for the first time, and Jaws, and The Exorcist, and I finished with The Hidden Fortress as my 1,000th movie. So
Wow.
yeah, that was just 2018 was where like I just saw like banger after banger after banger in that especially in that countdown. So
Did you think Strangelove was pretty funny?
I mean, it had its moments from what I remember. But The Killing's just more of my style of movie. I think, like, not that I don't think that Strangelove is bad. Like I definitely probably. I mean, you're not. I probably put it maybe from the movies I've seen is probably his second best movie, or my second favorite. Maybe not second best, but really definitely my second favorite, because I mean, as me and you have discussed, I don't like A Clockwork Orange. So yeah, I know you're gonna drive up here and kill me. It's fine, whatever.
You've seen Full Metal Jacket, and
Yeah, I mean,
was that your third one?
Oh yeah, seen Full Metal. I mean, that Full Metal's two movies. Like it literally is two different movies, because you've got the half where you're in where they're in boot camp,
and then you're actually in Vietnam.
Yeah, so it's like two completely separate movies, and that's like I feel like the part where they're in boot camp is an actual like that part I enjoyed, and the part where they go to Vietnam, like, it's a little different, but
Well, I mean, that's one of the big things about Kubrick movies. The more you see them, like, the more I've found that most people, the more you watch them, the more you like them. So if you've only seen a few of these ones once, maybe it'll be different second time around.
I mean, that's the one I've seen the most, because I feel like that you and I watched that one at college, and I've seen it two or three times. That's the one I own. I own that one. And then, like, you asked me about Eyes Wide Shut. I saw that one because that one came out in like 98 or 99, right?
Yeah, 99.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that I saw that in like 2000 on like HBO, and was just like, okay, there's titties everywhere, but I don't really know what in the hell's going on. And this is weird. And of course I watched because I was like, ooh, it's Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. They're married. Okay, cool. And then I was like, bruh.
Yeah, it's
what?
pretty.
Yeah, and I didn't know, I really didn't know who Kubrick was then. Like, I didn't really know directors or any, I knew who Spielberg was, kind of like,
Yeah.
But and I was like, okay, this movie was weird, and then, what not, because I guess it wasn't that much longer later, I remember watching Vanilla Sky, and it was like, here's Tom Cruise, and there's another weird movie that's based around something with titties. Like, okay, this is weird. What is Tom Cruise doing?
Have you seen Magnolia?
I have not.
Okay. That'd be probably a third weird Tom Cruise movie to put up there. It's been a long time since I've seen Vanilla Sky. That's probably worth for revisiting.
I saw that in the theater. That was weird. But yes, to continue.
Yeah, let's get into what we've been watching lately with our good, the bad, and the ugly. All right. So you can go first. What are your three categories for what you've been watching lately that we want to talk about?
Better than I thought it was going to be. I had a really hard time coming up with names. Like, I'm just going to make these up on the fly. I'm not even going to lie. So, better than what I thought it was going to be. All-Star Kids Classic.
Okay.
And also, we'll go with good. Yeah, we'll just go with good. Because I really don't know.
All right. Let's hear about your All-Star Kids Classic.
All right. So somehow I made it all the way to February of 2020, having never seen The Sandlot.
Get the fuck... What?
Yeah, I saw Angels in the Outfield. I saw Rookie of the Year. But nope. Yep. Nope. Never saw The Sandlot. I mean, I'd heard Killing Me Smalls. I knew it was from The Sandlot. Never seen it. So we hooked up the D plus, really probably for the first time since Mando ended, and we watched it. That movie was great. Uh,
It is. Yeah.
um, yeah, way better than any child movie probably had a right to be. In all honesty, like it was so 90s, for a movie set in I guess the 70s, 50s, whenever it was set. And then like they're just fighting to make this dog out to be Godzilla, basically.
Yep.
Like it was so well done, to be entertaining as a kids movie. But here I am, like 34 years old, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my god, this is fantastic. And then you get to the end, and it's Mufasa. It's Darth Vader. It's James Earl Jones. And the fact that they also played one of the Lion King songs in this movie, and this came out before that, and I'm like, this is just an ad for the Lion King.
Okay.
They played the Mighty in the Mighty Jungle, the lion sleeps tonight at one random part in the movie, and I'm just like, why in the fudge is the Lion King going? Like, what is going on here?
That's when they're camping out, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Gosh, I've seen that. I saw that in the theater, and I've seen it more times than I can remember. So it's hearing you see it for the first time is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, like the movies I saw as a child, like these are the movies as a child I remember seeing in the theater. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That's the first movie I remember seeing as a child. The next, and I'm sure I saw some more, but the next one that I remember seeing in theater was Jurassic Park.
Wow. It's a jump.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm sure I remember there are probably other ones, I just don't remember. And then because we just didn't go to the movies. We just didn't. And then I remember seeing like Anaconda.
I just saw that this week too.
So
goodness. All right, so my categories are the maybe I do want to watch this with subtitles. Still holds up, and I finally got back to the movies in 2020.
All right, I finally got back to the movies in 2020. I have an idea. I know what this is.
All right, so I went to go see Sonic the Hedgehog on President's Day with the kiddos, and I was really looking forward to this. I thought it was going to be an easy breezy, fun action movie, and they dropped the ball. Oh my goodness! So my problems with Sonic the Hedgehog. They redesigned the character. That looks great. Jim Carrey's fun for the most part. He's definitely doing his like 90s stick, but he's like overly rude to like these like random characters, and I kind of found that obnoxious. But the things I hated most about this movie were the fact that the lazy like typically I don't really like to nitpick movies, like I just kind of go on the ride, but there was so much like lazy plot devices in this movie that was just driving me crazy. Like they could never stay consistent with Sonic's powers. Like, the whole stick in the X-Men movies where Quicksilver runs around a room and like changes stuff or whatever real quick.
Yeah.
So they do that in Sonic, but like the first time they do it, like nothing's moving. It's like he froze time and he's messing things up, and then all of a sudden time starts and things happen. But then the next time he does it, like things are slowly moving as he does it. It was just totally not consistent. And like, so the rings, they open portals for some stupid reason, which is just a total plot device for why everything happens in the movie, is the fact that the rings open portals. Sonic has a wise master that's an owl that they compare to Obi-Wan Kenobi, which was super random and unnecessary. It's like if I think there was enough Sonic lore out there to where you could have not made up this random stuff to junk up the movie with. Overall, it was enjoyable. Kids could easily go to it and have a good time. But, like, for instance, like, they have to go to San Francisco. And they explain that the reason Sonic can't just zip down to San Francisco real quick and do what he needs to do is because he doesn't know how to get there, because he runs into the ocean. Really? He couldn't have stopped and asked the other random person along the way, hey, how do I get to San Francisco instead of running in the ocean? And then, like, you might have seen the trailer where they make this really stupid joke about Sonic being in a bag and him making noise, and then people looking over at the bag is like, what do you have in there, a kid? And they're like, oh, yeah, I have a kid in the bag. And so that's the joke. And the whole reason they make this joke is because apparently the rings are located within like a roof space that has a locked door, even though Sonic could easily just run up this building to get there. And it was just so many stupid things like that that mounted up that just irritated the heck out of me. So, I mean, overall, it was all right. I mean, it was a Sonic movie. I kind of want to see the sequel because it looks like Tails and stuff is going to be in it next time. And like Jim Carrey looks even more like Dr. Robotnik. Is better than Mario Brothers, but not by much.
Well, from my understanding, Mario Brothers is like insanely bad. So from
You've never seen the Mario Brothers movie?
No. Again, my parents didn't take me to movies.
Okay.
So, but my understanding is that the Mario Brothers movie is like down in like the Manos Troll 2 level of bad.
Well, I mean, as a 90s kid, you'd have to see it to like, I mean, there's Mario Brothers stuff in there, which is enjoyable. Like the reason I watched a lot of movies like that when I was a kid is, we had a black box for, like descrambling the pay-per-view movies. So like pretty much every movie that came on pay-per-view, we would tape on VHS and I would like have. So that was the way I watched a lot of those movies growing up.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, one of my friends went on a date tonight and they went and saw Sonic, and he was telling me about it while I was waiting for us to start. And he didn't go into detail, like he doesn't go into he's not as like big into movies like we are, but like he is like we collect movies, he collects video games. So
okay,
he loved it. And he thought it was great and had a crazy good time with it. So it's just really interesting to, to hear your opinion after hearing somebody else go, oh my God, I loved it. It was great. It was so, all this Sonic reference, blah, different stuff. So, just kind of an interesting take. Like that'll probably be one, when, like it hits Prime or something and I can watch it on my Fire Stick for, like $3 or $4 or the red box or something. I'll probably catch it. So,
and like it was one of those movies where like if in the end credits, if they would have just played the Sonic cartoon song, it would have all been good. I would have smiled. I would have forgiven a lot. But no, they paid some random pop artist to do some random Sonic song that didn't need to be there. I had the same thought after I watched X-Men Last Stand. I'm like, okay, this movie was awful, but if you play the cartoon music at the end of this, then I'll be good. And that didn't happen either. So
fair.
Do you remember the Sonic cartoon at all?
Not really, because so for a lot of times when I was a kid, we didn't go to movies. I didn't have a lot of cable or anything. So like my cartoons was the X-Men, and it was Spider-Man, it was Batman, and then I had Power Rangers. So, and then I got a little bit older, and I did have a little bit of like the Rugrats or a little bit of Doug, but not a ton. And I remember being little and having a Skeletor toy, but I don't ever remember actually watching He-Man, and I never watched Thundercats or anything like that.
Voltron. So
like no Voltron. I have a Voltron shirt because I got it in a loot crate.
All right.
No.
Let's hear about your good movie.
All right, my good movie. So I feel like we might go back and forth on this because we both watched this movie recently. So this is Fighting with My Family. So I've been wanting to watch this a lot because everybody who knows me knows how much I love wrestling. And I really, really loved Paige as a wrestler. And this is basically her, I guess, her biography movie. And so for the most part, I enjoyed the movie a lot. Like I gave it a real high rating, probably higher than I should have, because it was about Paige. And I really... Like I said, Paige is one of my favorite wrestlers, not just female wrestlers, but wrestlers in general. And like, so like the big ending of the movie, she comes out and she faces AJ Lee. So AJ Lee was also one of my favorite wrestlers at that point in time. But the thing that in the movie that they got completely wrong was that was her first match. That was incorrect. And I know you made some comment about it in your review because you can Google it or whatever. So I'm guessing, or YouTube it. So I'm guessing that since you watched the match on YouTube, I'm guessing that she was the NXT Women's Champion, and she came out and faced AJ Lee, who was at what they used to call the Divas Champion. So now they're not divas, they're just superstars. So she would be well, they have 2 belts now, the Raw and Women's. And Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion, but she was the Women's Champion, was the Divas Champion, and she came out and won the title on her first night because AJ Lee was going to go get married and go on her honeymoon. So, so like I marked out, as they say, because like 2 of my favorite wrestlers fighting, she just came up and debuted, and so she had both belts. It was cool. They kind of took and just left that story out. I don't really know why. There's some theories, whatever. But the movie was cool. They went into it. The Rock came in, did his thing. They went into showing some of her life with her brother. Lena Headey, she's always good. When she's not sleeping with her brother, or running a slumlord building. For Judge Dredd to come in and murder. She's great. So it was better than actually what I thought it was. I kind of thought it was gonna be bad. Like I said, I probably overrated it just because I'm a big fan of Paige, and wish she hadn't got hurt and had to retire.
Is it Florence Pugh that played her?
Yes, it is Florence Pugh.
How did you? I mean, they have like completely different body types. So how did that? Like, I didn't really know what Paige looked like before this movie. So what did you think of that?
I mean, it's one of those things. It's a movie, like getting like, unless they just got Paige to play herself. I mean, like the girl they got to play AJ Lee at the end, Thea Trinidad, who is Zelina Vega on really doesn't look like AJ Lee at all. They got her because AJ Lee is kind of tan and Zelina Vega is Puerto Rican, so. Or at least her character, Zelina Vega, is Puerto Rican. I think Thea Trinidad is actually Puerto Rican. I could be mistaken about that. So it's like, okay. And then in the scenes where they're wrestling, they have another wrestler doing her stunts for her, Tessa Blanchard, who's the actual, not women's champion, the actual main champion in another promotion currently. And it's like, all right, so yeah, no, they they did some stuff. So I mean, but I think it was, she had the accent, she had the dark hair, except for where they did the thing where she had the blonde hair.
It was interesting to see the real girl because like they made the whole storyline to be about like how she was kind of like this not so attractive like punk girl. Who is like battling against these bimbos, but then you see the real girl, and I mean she's just equally as hot as like some of the ladies in the movie. So, do you think that element of like her struggle held up?
I mean, it's very possible because like one of those girls was supposed to be Charlotte Flair, who Paige is much more attractive than. But if you know anything about wrestling, that last name that I just dropped is complete royalty.
Right.
And if you're watching wrestling, you know that after Paige won that title and gave up the women's NXT title, Charlotte was the next one, and then has just been like a mainstay. She's like a 10-time champion in like the last 5 years or something absurd like that. And then some of those other girls, I'm not exactly sure who they were supposed to be, but I mean, given who else was down there and when it came up, some of them, it could have been one of them could have been Alexa Bliss. And Alexa Bliss is very, very attractive, and she's also blonde. One of them could have been Becky, and Becky's redheaded, but very attractive. Sasha Banks, Bayley, pretty much, and all of those girls are very good looking. And whether or not you think Paige looks better than them or not, whether she thinks she looks better than them or Vince, or Vince really doesn't do a lot with NXT, but Triple H or Shawn Michaels, the people running or the people who were running it back then, some of the coaches and stuff, whoever Vince Vaughn was playing, whether or not they thought she looked better than these people, because, coming out of that time period where they thought that blonde hair and they had a prototypical look. So if you remember what like Trish Stratus or Stacey Keebler or Tori Wilson looked like, that was kind of their prototype, what they wanted a wrestler to look like. Or if you know what Mandy Rose looks like right now, that's kind of the build that they want. And they kind of changed that. A lot of those girls, Paige, AJ, before she left, and then Sasha, Bailey, Becky, even Alexa, because Alexa is blonde, but she's shorter and has a little bit different build than some of them. So they kind of changed up the game a little bit. But Vince on the main roster still wants it to be 6 foot tall, blonde, giant, fake boobs kind of deal. So
I mean, overall as a movie, I thought it was very good, an inspirational story. I was just curious what you thought about what the reality of the story was there, since you can easily pull it up on YouTube.
I mean, yeah. Sorry, you start talking about wrestling, I can tangent. My bad.
No worries. All right, so you want to get into our next one?
Yeah, what you got?
So the subtitle one or the Still Holds Up?
Still holds up.
Okay, so whenever I heard the Grand Budapest Hotel was announced for Criterion, that was the perfect excuse to pop that bad boy in. And yeah, I enjoyed it just as much as I did the first time. Are you a Wes Anderson fan?
I don't believe I've seen any of his. Grand Budapest Hotel is one I've been interested in. Mm-hmm. I do have a Wes Anderson Criterion sitting on my shelf because I found the Royal Tenenbaums. That's Wes Anderson, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I found that one day in my diving, my cheap diving. So I found that for $1. So,
yeah, this movie still holds up great. There's so much fun, quirky moments. This is one of his more action-packed films, in my opinion. I mean, the pacing is always really going strong with this little drum beat that has going on as they're going from silly circumstance to silly circumstance. I won't give away too much since you haven't seen it. Could probably do a whole journey through Wes Anderson stuff. But yeah, Grand Budapest is still my favorite Wes Anderson. Great action scenes, hilarious moments, and his aesthetic. I mean, it's something else. It's like a storybook come to life is kind of what he brings to life. And that was the one film where the first time I saw Royal Tenenbaums, it blew my mind. And then the second time I watched it, the end wasn't as strong as I remembered it. And then I watched a few of his others, the Darjeeling Limited and The Life Aquatic, and I didn't like them so much the first time, and I appreciated them a lot more the second time. I think Rushmore, that's probably the other one that I've loved both times. But yeah, Grand Budapest is my favorite. What's your last?
Better Than I Expected, or Better Than It Had Any Right to Be, or something of that nature.
Okay.
Which was Burlesque.
Okay.
Yeah. So I knew we were about to watch Sweeney Todd, and I was like, I kind of want to watch something musical. And there's not a true musical because they don't sing. Their dialogue, they only sing in the parts where they're performing. But
okay.
So Christina, obviously, anybody who knows Christina Aguilera can sing. Cher obviously can sing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, both the ladies have pipes. So Stanley Tucci did the best he could to carry this movie, him and Kristen Bell. And that was the thing that got me. I was not expecting brunette, bitchy Kristen Bell. And if I didn't already love Kristen Bell, I would have fell in love with Kristen Bell. So I fell in love with her all over again. Because she's the main star of the burlesque show. It's her deal. She's an alcoholic. She shows up late. She doesn't really give a fuck. And she the Midwest, and I'm coming out west to change my life. that whole cliche. And she ends up working there trying to get in on the show, and then there's a love story and blah blah, not between those two, between her and a barkeeper. And yeah, so it's fun. It's not a great movie. Like, the script's not that great, some of the dialogue is very weak, but the songs are fun, the dance numbers are fun. And so you just you want some music, you want some songs, you want some pretty girls to look at, and there's some guys to look at in there too, if that's your thing as well. Like, to not be just completely sexist. And so it was fun. It was a fun time. Like, it was just, I put it in, I was like, this is gonna be trash, and then I was just like, the whole time I was like, yo, this is better than I thought, which is always surprising.
I'm imagining a scenario where I watch that movie and I can't think of one. Not that it doesn't sound good, just that I don't know.
I mean, let's be real. We do have a lot of differentiating taste, and I am willing to watch more movies based solely off the fact that the women in them are hot. Than you. I didn't know it had K-Bell, and it had brunette bitchy K-Bell. So yeah, no, I was like, it was done. So
man, I thought the subtitles thing was gonna be low hanging fruit, but you, I guess maybe you're saving the best for last. I don't know. All right, so I saw La Jetée, which is a half-hour. I guess it's a short film. I guess you would say it doesn't have a Criterion Spine number. It's part of like this 2 short film set that Criterion offers. So it's on the Criterion channel. I finally wanted to check it out. Apparently it's the inspiration for 12 Monkeys.
Oh, okay.
So what's unique about this movie is it's a time travel film told in still pictures. And it has a dystopian element because they explain that World War III has passed, and they find this guy, and they're going to do some time travel experiments on him. And it's all about like him seeing like back into his memories, which works really well with the still picture format. Like, they show these still pictures of like, I think Paris, like all blown to hell after World War III. So that's really eerie to see. And then it's really eerie to see like them do the experiments. Like, the main scientist guy has these like really long like goggle looking things, which I feel it was inspirational for a lot of like mad scientists like down the line. And then it goes into like this whole romantic section where he's like remembering being with this girl, and then it has kind of a bookend with how it rounds out. So I watched this thing. It's only a half hour long, but like it kind of like between the music and the still images, you kind of get like kind of lost in this trance of this, and it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. So actually, right after I watched it, I decided, because the initial icon I clicked on the Criterion channel, it was all in English, and so I watched that and I was like, oh, what happened? And then it started up again. Like, I sat there for a moment, and then it started up again, and it was in French and with subtitles, and I was like, well, this will help me zone in, key in on like what they're actually saying rather than getting lost in the pictures. So I paused that. The following night I watched that, and then I got a lot more out of it the second time reading the French subtitles on it. So I watched La Jetée 2 nights in a row. A lot to offer. Pretty what would the word be? Unique, innovative. I mean, doing a short film all in still pictures through a time travel concept. It's worth a watch, especially if you're into dorky art movies like we are, or at least me.
I mean, that sounds really cool. Also, I specifically saved this one for last because you named it. I should have watched it with subtitles. Just gonna harken back to a conversation we had like a year ago and leave it at that.
Oh, we've had that conversation many a time. Many a time.
I know.
Every time I'm listening to a YouTube video and they're like, man, people that watch dubs, they're just bad people. I just want to reach through the internet and strangle them because, come on, teach his own. I mean, I read plenty of subtitle movies.
Yeah, no, and like, anytime for some reason it comes up and then it's like, I understand why. Like, some people read faster than others, or some people just have a preference, or like whatever. Like I get it. So like we don't need to bring up the whole debate again. It was just I just wanted to take a shot at you.
And sometimes they disappear, and sometimes they don't. Like I remember watching The Raid Redemption, and I was like trying to keep up with the dialogue, but then I watched something like Parasite, and like after a while, I didn't even realize I was reading subs. So I mean, a lot of times it has to do with, I guess, how they're presented.
And then like I said, like because if it's up to me, I watch every movie with subs. So like and I watch TV shows, I watch them with subs. So it's just they're there, so I don't even think about it. I'm just reading them. So like it's just second nature.
All right, now to our movie club pick of the week, and there's a lot of online analysis. It's all over the place for Criterion Collection Spy number 779, Mullholland Drive. I've listened to all of them at least twice. But yeah, we are going to give our own average Joe tackle on, wrapping our minds around this fascinating film by David Lynch. So I'll get into the synopsis from courtesy of our friends at Wikipedia. Mulholland Drive is an American neo-noir mystery film written and directed by David Lynch. It stars Naomi Watts, Laura Herring, and Justin Theroux. It tells the story of an inspiring actress named Betty Elms, played by Watts, newly arrived in L.A., who meets and befriends an amnesiac woman, Herring, recovering from a car accident. And the more you get into this 2.5 hour surrealist epic, the stranger it gets. So,
oh boy, is that an understatement?
All right, so let's hear why you added this to your list, if you can remember from a year ago.
Yeah, I feel like I remember like that it was one I had wanted to see for a while. And maybe I remember like you and or Carl talking about it or something, and it was cool or it was good, yada yada. I don't really remember the specific reason other than I had wanted to see it. It basically how most all the movies that got put on my list were. I went to not to one of my millions of lists that I have on Letterboxd, but I just went to my actual watch list, and movies that weren't in one of those lists I picked. One, because I didn't think we would be here a year later still going through this list. I didn't think it would take us this long. But, hey, it's fun. I enjoy it. We're here. And,
yep.
It'd give us – it basically would be a new list, and it would be, to be fair, this is going to be the first list I finish other than, like, the ones we went through in October.
Getting pretty close.
Yeah, we're getting there. So, to be fair, one of the things I was discussing with Carl earlier tonight was like if you go back and you look at the episode list, like if you don't look at our list and like click on the links to our list on Letterboxd, if you just look at like our episode list on YouTube or on Spotify or something, you'd be like, this is a Justin movie, this is not a Joey movie. But here we are.
A little bit. All right, so yeah, so this is the second David Lynch film we've tackled on the show. Would you agree with me that Blue Velvet's a good place to start over jumping in fresh to Mulholland Drive, or?
To be fair, like if you're trying to introduce somebody to David Lynch and you introduce them into Blue Velvet, like that honestly made me not want to watch Mulholland Drive because I just didn't.
But from the perspective of like Blue Velvet is very like it's easy to kind of tell what's going on there, whereas this thing's going to tie your head up in knots and like kick you to the curb.
Oh well, yes, in that instance, yeah. I mean, I
not
feel
from
like
not definitely not from a like because I had no idea you were gonna get so hung up on like the Dennis Hopper character in Blue Velvet, so that was interesting to see.
Well, it wasn't just. I mean, there really wasn't. I just didn't enjoy the movie. Period. and Dennis Hopper was just a dickhole. But I mean, if you read my Letterboxd review, I referenced that movie in reviewing this one. But this movie is a much better movie. But I spent probably like 30 minutes, 40 minutes after it ended, like I felt like there was like a vice on my head. Like I was in here like writing my review and then my notes, and I was just like, oh my God, like I don't even know what's happening. And like my head was still spinning when I started Sweeney Todd. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't even know what's happening. Like I don't know what I just watched. Like yeah, dude, like
yeah, so I've had
I used a very colorful descriptive term to describe how my head felt after that movie.
So yeah, I've had a long history with Lynch. So I had watched Eraserhead about 10 years ago. I'm not sure if I went into this for Blue Velvet, but let's see here. So yeah, the first time I watched Eraserhead 10 years ago, it just totally went over my head. I watched it again a few years later, still didn't really get it. And then kind of whenever I started getting really into movies / watching film reviews / getting into Letterboxd is when I watched all of David Lynch's 10 or so films. And this was the second one I watched. I watched it on Netflix one night. Blue Velvet kind of in the same time frame. And yeah, I started really getting into his movies and watched all of them to kind of see what the spectrum is in terms of the most Lynchy to the least Lynchy. And this is definitely on the higher end of the Lynchy spectrum. Inland Empire is his most Lynchy one. I've listened to multiple analysis of that, and it's still, that one's hard to get your mind around. But we're talking about Mulholland Drive. So let's see here. And I even watched all the way through his Twin Peaks TV series. And actually, that's the last series that I've watched all the way through was his Twin Peaks Series 3, which that can get pretty Lynchy at times as well. So, Joey, what do you think Mulholland Drive's about?
All right, so it's a movie that's about movies or about Hollywood.
Yep.
And debauchery and how it can take like a young girl, or maybe not necessarily a girl, but in this case a girl, Naomi Watts, and chew her up, spit her out, get rid of her, not give a fuck, basically. And there's a lot of imagery and some things to do with that, especially in the second half of the movie when it kind of goes from the first half where it feels like a whodunit, which I was really digging, and you know it felt like almost like a wagon wheel. So you had something over here, something over here, something over here, something over here, and it was leading like spokes, like it was going to go into the center and lead together. And then you got lynched. I'm sorry. That's wow. That's not what I meant to say.
It came off pretty clever though. I would say that every time I've come into this, it's felt like a whole new experience. Like every time I come into this, I'm having to refigure out exactly how all the pieces come together, which is fascinating to me. I remember it's so straight, and it's really deceptive because it's really straightforward in the end, or in the beginning, and then as it goes along, it gets more and more kind of layered, I guess you could say. And I remember watching this the second time after I watched it on a Criterion Blu-ray and thinking just how, because it's really a cinematic puzzle, and to think about how he like took each kind of scene and like in order to kind of piece it together to make this this overall film is quite remarkable. And he was actually nominated for Best Director at the Oscars the year this came out. So it was very well known that his achievement for this. And did you know this was actually supposed to be a TV show?
Oh, okay. No, that I did not know.
Yep. So he had success with Twin Peaks, and he wanted to do that again with Mulholland Drive, but the network just thought it was too weird, and so they cut it, and he kind of reined it back in and made a movie out of it. So that's the history behind Mulholland Drive. And are you familiar with Sunset Boulevard at all?
I mean, it's the Strip, Sunset Strip. I mean,
It's a classic Billy Wilder movie. And that movie is about a actress from the silent era who has to come to terms with the fact that her stardom has ended. And so what's interesting about Mulholland Drive is it's a parallel street within Hollywood, but this story is about basically an actress that, goes out to Hollywood to make it big, but just really it never comes together for her. So it's kind of the inverse of Sunset Boulevard.
okay. All right, that's yeah. Never would have known that.
What's one of the first things you want to talk about here? Just kind of maybe let's break it down from maybe the beginning of what stood out to you, and we'll go through this piece by piece.
Well, you have Betty. I guess this is in the beginning, but
Well, actually, Rita, she's going in that car through the Hollywood Hills, right?
Playing and just sleeps outside the door and sneaks into the house, and the cops are like, hey, someone's missing. And then you get Betty gets off the plane and she ends up there and finds her, and just naively just completely trusts this woman. She's like, oh, she's naked in the shower, okay, whatever. Oh, she's hurt, and doesn't just completely trust her. But hey, she's from Canada and they're completely trusting people, right? That's a stereotype. So
But it's just like a movie. It's a mystery. Let's solve it together.
Oh, those two girls! I swear to God.
One of the things that stands out most to me at first is I love how eerie the score is with let me see if I can pronounce his name, Angelo Badalamenti. He's worked with David Lynch several times with Twin Peaks and throughout his movies, and I love his synthesizer kind of score. It's very eerie as it sets this movie up. I love like the flash of the Mulholland Drive street sign to kind of set up the movie, just to kind of show that it has this ominous tone. But the fun thing about Lynch is like he has this like 1950s, 1960s sensibility with like what he shows, but then he twists it with the surrealism to kind of pervert it at the same time. So the more Lynch you watch, the more you kind of get into that's what he's going for. I highly recommend you watch his thing on Netflix. I think it's like a 15-minute short with him talking to a monkey. And you see clearly that he's talking about all these old-fashioned things, but he likes to put his own little surrealistic twist to it.
Interesting.
And then, you remember the jitterbug sequence?
Probably the jitterbug's the dance.
Yep.
Right.
So after we set up the movie is a Mulholland Drive, we see all these we see this kind of a lighted background and all these couples dancing the jitterbug. And what's interesting to see here is it's basically the same 2 or 3 couples like layered over top of each other. So when you either put on your thinking cap or you listen to some YouTube, you come to the conclusion that personalities are going to be stacked on top of each other in this movie. Like not one person is who they say they are. They're actually another person because this is a fantasy. And so whenever you watch the jitterbug sequence, that kind of is it alludes to that fact that this is a layered story.
It's foretelling or
foreshadowing, yeah.
Foreshadowing, yes, there we go. That's the fair word I am looking for. Yeah, foretelling. Ooh.
All right, so we talked about
I'm on my game this evening, fellas.
No worries. All right. So we talked about the fact that Rita, she avoids getting shot by somebody in the front seat of a limo. Whenever somebody crashes into the limo, she gets thrown out. She makes her way to this house and kind of takes refuge there. And then you get one of the best scenes in the movie. I can't believe you skipped over this. The Winky's Diner. Do you want to talk about
Winky's
this
Diner,
first?
which totally looks like they repurposed a Denny's. It also gave me a lot of Pulp Fiction vibes.
Okay.
With the way it looked, not necessarily with what happened on the inside, but just kind of the way it looked like the diner from Pulp Fiction. I could be completely wrong there, but that's what it reminded me of.
And diners were very popular in the 50s. It's what I mean, there's a diner in Twin Peaks, and David Lynch is all about his characters going to a diner to have coffee.
Oh, this is the one where the dude had the dream and he was telling him about the dream, and then they go outside and
Yep.
The raven thing or whatever the hell it was.
Homeless tramp, evil entity, yeah, that thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dressed up as a raven. I don't know, quote the Raven Nevermore, Edgar Allan Poe, whatever. Just eats him, kills him. I don't even know. Scares the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Something. No, I had to remember you had talked about what was the diner, and I was like, wait, that's the thing that happens at the diner at the end of the movie. I was like, wait, think, rewind.
Yeah, this scene actually got spoiled for me the first time I watched it, because I was watching some Cinefix countdown of the most iconic scenes, and this was one of them. And so they explained what happened there. And so the first time I watched it, I knew it was going to happen. I don't remember the second time I watched it, but this third time I watched it, I still knew what was going to happen. But I was actually happened to be watching this on my laptop with my headphones. And man, David Lynch's sound design is just awesome with how he builds tension through the sound. And this was actually the first time on my third watch where I got a legitimate jump scare out of this thing jumping out from this behind the wall. It's pretty creepy looking.
That thing, I was not expecting that, and they seemed really out of place. And then I just kept waiting for that. Like I said, I was waiting for everything to kind of tie itself together. And then I think I got lost in the fact that I was and then it showed back up near again at the end in some weird ass scene. And because the whole second half of this movie is weird AF. I'm not even going to front.
Well, you want to talk about what you think? Do you have any ideas of why that's there?
No, literally, I don't think when I was talking this out that I even came across death. It's a thing that is black and looks like it's carrying death. Maybe that's the only thing off the top of my head.
It's Diane or Betty's evil side. So whatever. So we see that she is evil because she orders a hit on Camilla, or whatever the woman is that we want to call who she fell in love with and is jealous of. But we'll get into that a little bit more later. But so yeah, essentially the tramp represents this evil force.
Okay, I mean that makes sense. My brain is starting to hurt again.
All of the well, the second time I watched this, one thing that really stood out to me, I remember pulling my recliner really close to the TV, and especially in the Winky's Diner scene, this, I mean, they're not lockdown shots. They're very the camera's moving around, and it really creates this great sense of unease as they're building up to this jump scare, which I always really enjoyed. That second time I watched it, didn't really notice it as much the first time. I didn't even remember I said that until I looked back at my Letterboxd review, which is one of the great things about Letterboxd. All right, so fast forward a little bit, we get to Naomi Watts getting off the plane. She's fresh from Canada in LA now, and so did you notice her blouse? I guess you call it her shirt.
Not that I recall.
So if you look closely, you'll notice that it's too small for her. So that's kind of an indicator that maybe she's coming at this whole Hollywood thing for kind of a juvenile personality. It's like, she has this nice kid spirit, but maybe she's overgrown for this. So that's one of the things we can kind of take away from the fact that like this very slim, attractive woman is wearing clothes that are too small for her.
Counterpoint.
Okay.
I'm not saying that you're wrong or whoever on YouTube said that.
Mm-hmm.
But as we get into the weird, wild, wacky, crazy shit later in this movie, where the movie gets kind of over sexualized in parts, and Mulholland Drive, Mulholland Drive overlooks the San Fernando Valley, which is where the porno industry started, and this was a way for David Lynch, to be like, hey, it chews out and spit out these girls, and they end up, dead, as we see later on, or they end up doing porn. It could just be him going, hey, look, she's over sexualized, because it's Naomi Watts and she's a pretty good looking woman. Maybe sometimes it's just something as simple as that. I mean, I could be wrong.
Oh my goodness. I mean, was it Laura Herring with that red top and red lipstick later on? Oof. She's looking pretty attractive.
Yeah, because there's another scene later on where they literally are talking, and then it cuts, and then they're just literally topless. There's no, they take their clothes off. It's like their clothes disappear. And I'm like, what in the fudge is going on here? And then they're on top of each other, and then she's like, no, I don't want you to do this, but you just told her to come. I think, oh my God, my brain is hurting talking about this movie.
And we even skipped over the part that, like, it kind of sets up the fact that this is all like a fantasy. Remember the part where, like,
and this isn't,
it's like a POV.
Watch your fantasy. This is just a weird, crazy, drugged out fantasy or something. I don't even know.
Yeah. So we kind of skipped over the fact that, like, you kind of get the point of view of like somebody that's kind of in a stupor, and she like dives into her like pillow or whatever, and that's kind of what begins this whole dream of Naomi Watts being Betty, being this naive girl coming to Hollywood for the first time, saying, yeah, I won a jitterbug contest. Now I'm out to stay with my Aunt Ruth's place, and I'm going to run into, this actress that has forgot who she is. So, yeah, she's given this happy-go-lucky personality. You notice throughout constantly, like, every time they look at, like, one of the waitress's name tags in the diner, they're like, oh, I recognize that name. And it's because, like, Betty is giving all these people different names within her fantasy. I'm doing a bad job at explaining this right now. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to get into is the fact that you have the whole mob element of the film. And I actually find this to be one of the most uninteresting things, because I guess it kind of loses me every time I see it. So this kind of starts off whenever the director goes to this like casting meeting, and all these mob types are like surrounding him, and he's like, you're going to pick this girl. And he's like, no, I'm not. It's my movie. I'm going to do whatever I want to. And they're like, no, you're going to pick this girl. And then you have this really weird scene where this guy, like, they're like, oh, we got the finest espresso in the whole world we're going to give you. And so they give it to this dude, and he proceeds to, like, spit it up all over a napkin, which is kind of strange. And I wasn't I was trying to remember what exactly my thought was on why they do this. And I guess it might be the fact that this whole, like, Hollywood system is all bullshit. Like, they pick who they want to pick, and that's what happens in Hollywood. So that's kind of the explanation I came up with in my mind for that. Any thoughts on, like, the whole mob element in this movie? It's kind of mysterious.
Well, it didn't necessarily go with the mob part of it. It was more of, as we called that director J.J. Abrams the whole time, but it was more of that J.J. Abrams represented David Lynch, and that that whole story arc with having to pick that girl, and then had to go to the ranch and speak to the cowboy and all of that was his way of saying that sometimes
you just skipped over the best part of the movie.
Hold on, Jesus Christ, I'm explaining something.
Okay.
I mean, and we've already talked probably about the best part of the movie. Well, maybe not the best part when, homegirl takes the towel off, but, whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, what I was trying to say,
Cowboy.
Jesus Christ, before you interrupted me, was that David Lynch was using, quote, J.J. Abrams, end quote, was to say that sometimes, no matter, it's your movie, but you can't make the movie how you want, and you can't cast who you want, because the higher-ups with money are like, listen, bitch, you're going to put this person. Oh, you want this person because they're the best person? Well, hey, we want this person because they look right, or because this person owes us a favor, or we owe them a favor, or whatever reason, X, Y, Z you want. So there you go. This is the person you got. And, and maybe, because I feel like, since it's a movie about movies, he's taken a lot of shots at Hollywood and this, that, and the fifth. And that's where I went with that. So I just, that whole arc, and then the whole thing with going to the ranch and all that was kind of weird. And I don't mean the ranch with Sam Elliott, because that would probably be cool, but it's a completely different thing all in of itself.
The only reason I interrupted you is because we jumped over Billy Ray Cyrus.
Oh well, yeah, I was coming back to Billy Ray Cyrus. That was really weird.
I'm going to say that 5 more times in this review.
He knocks the shit out of J.J. Abrams. Then the mafioso shows up. He tries to beat the shit out of him, and he loses that fight.
Yeah.
We were just sitting there, and we just kind of do the, hey, that's Billy Ray Cyrus. Like, what the hell is he doing here?
He's so nonchalant. He's just like, hey, you shouldn't talk to your wife like that, even if she is screwing me, or whatever he says. And then he takes the bright pink paint, which, why does he have that? And he douses her jewelry in it. Oh, it's awesome.
I mean, yeah, he totally broke J.J. Abrams' achy breaky heart.
Ah, there you go.
Also, please kill me for that.
And then you get into another one of the funniest scenes of the movie whenever we get introduced to the hitman.
The cowboy?
No, this is the hitman with his calling card is the blue keys. So he's talking to this really goofy guy in this like random room, and like he's like, that's some black book, and he offs this guy. And he's like cleaning the gun, and then the gun goes off and shoots some lady in the other room. And he goes and takes care of her, and then this maintenance guy comes and he kills him, and then he accidentally sets off the fire alarm. It's just like this hilarious like comedy of errors. And the reason why this is so significant is because the Naomi Watts character later on hires him to kill her rival. And deep down inside, she's hoping, like within this like fantasy, she imagines him as this complete like goof, this like total screw up. So part of her wish is like after she executes like getting her rival killed, that he'll screw it up and not actually carry it out because her guilt's going to consume her.
But this is as Diane, not as Betty. For the record, because her name is not actually Betty, her name is Diane.
Right. Diane, Betty, Naomi Watts. Yeah.
Yes, Naomi Watts, and then you have Rita, who's actually Camilla. Mm-hmm. Although there's the part where Melissa George in the fantasy is also Camilla. It's hard to keep up with. Okay, so we're gonna rewind for a second.
Okay.
Yep, we're going to take it to the 90s. We're going to rewind. So she actually wants him to fail.
Yes.
But how does she know that he's a screw up? She doesn't see him fuck that up. We see that. How are you
That's
coming
still
to the conclusion?
that's still in the dream. So within her
Yes.
dream, so whenever she crashes into the pillow, we don't know the verdict of what happened with the hit. During her dream, she hopes that he is such a goofball that he messed this up.
Okay, so she's just hoping, and that she dreamed that.
Yes.
But we see later that she has the key, so he
Yes.
actually kills
Correct.
Camilla, Laura Haring,
Yep.
which leads her to her killing herself.
Yes, because she's consumed with guilt,
Okay, so who?
which manifests itself in the tiny old people.
Which is in the so then in the dream when they go exploring into her apartment, is Laura Haring's body that then she sees and not her own body?
I think it would be her own.
Fucking hell.
It's almost
Okay.
it's almost a vision of her after she's killed herself.
I don't
yeah,
have
that part's a
I,
little complex.
I don't have I didn't take enough drugs for this.
Yeah, it's pretty interwoven. The next thing I was going to get to is she thinks a lot of herself because she goes to that Hollywood audition and she's like all of a sudden like the greatest actor ever, as she like has that whole seduction scene with that dude.
Dude, like that scene was legit. Like you're like, whoa, dude, she's crushing it.
Yep. So she definitely thinks highly of herself after that. Then the next thing I was going to mention is they have the whole like doo-wop thing on the soundstage, and that definitely plays into David Lynch's sensibilities with like in this like 50s, 60s kind of stuff. And I had mentioned earlier that he likes to pervert that with his surrealism. And then we already got into the Billy Ray Cyrus stuff, which is awesome. And then I was going to get in, and then we got the whole cowboy thing where like this hothead director, like basically the cowboy puts him in his place. And the cowboy basically tells him, you need to fall in line with what the mobsters want here and hire the girl that they told you to hire. And then it's very important to notice that the cowboy says, you'll see me once if you do good and twice if you do bad. And since he's actually talking to Rita, because this is all Rita's dream, hopefully I'm saying the right name there, you do see him twice. She did bad.
Wouldn't this be Diane's dream?
Right. So I said the wrong name. Okay, Naomi Watts. The Naomi Watts character does bad. So we see the cowboy 2 more times because the hit goes successfully. And later, he's also significant because later on he says, "Wake up, little girl," and that's towards the end of the fantasy, where she has traveled to Holland. Oh, go ahead.
No, finish that thought. Never mind. Go ahead. Sorry, I'll stop you.
Okay. So we're winding into the part now where the fantasy is starting to collapse. She dresses Rita up like herself. She puts a blonde wig on, and then they have that kind of intimate moment in the bed together. Because in real life...
The blonde wig was atrocious.
Okay.
Did not work with the skin. Also, now that I've interjected, I didn't realize we were going to jump away. So...
Did we miss something?
The cowboy, the cowboy, I'm putting pieces together because if for everybody else this is as hard to follow it is for me, and I sound stupid, I apologize. Again, I said this was a Justin movie and not a me movie. I don't understand how this is on my list now having watched it, but hey, here we are. The cowboy is the dream version of the hitman.
No, I wouldn't go. He's his own. He's his own thing. He's kind of like the voice of reason.
Okay. All right. Now we're back. Betty, the dream version of Diane, has put Rita, the dream version of Camilla, and has dressed her up in her clothing to hide her because she's hiding out from the people who are trying to kill her in the dream. Okay, boom, that's where we are. Gotcha.
Well, I kind of see it as more
She
as
was
they're kind of merging together kind of thing, like kind of persona-ish.
well. Well, they might be merging together, but if I'm not mistaken, she was trying to hide and did not want to be found, so they were disguising her with the wig.
Um, I mean, there might be some validity to it. I mean, I'm never. I guess the most threatening aspect there is the people like within the complex are like saying, "Hey, why is this person here?" Basically, what we're kind of getting into now is Club Silencio, which is I keep saying it's like one of the best parts, but Club Silencio is the best part of the movie. So yeah, he I guess let's see here. The Naomi Watts character loves the other girl so much that she wants her to be the same as her essentially, and she wakes up in the middle of the night after they're together and starts saying Silencio. So they take a cab ride to that theater, and it's very important to note that the the host of the theater says everything you see here is going to be fake, and then gosh, this singer comes out and she sings like the most heartbreaking, luscious, awesome song ever. It's just awesome. And then all of a sudden she falls over, and we see that this has all been a pre-recording, which hints back to the fact that this has all been a dream the whole time. So you have that. The stage flashes blue quite a few times. Take note that there we have the whole the blue key, the blue box, which once we go into the blue box and come out, that means the dream is over. What?
Is it Blue Velvet? David Lynch really likes blue.
I mean, I've heard some references to what red symbolizes in this movie, and I haven't quite got my arms around that. But blue is definitely change-ish, perhaps. Yeah. So, any thoughts on Club Silencio?
Nah, honestly, at this point, I'm really just the stuff I've covered pretty much everything I had written down, and this is so much more of a rabbit hole than I was even prepared for, to be 1,000% honest, brother.
All right. All right. I'll see if I can stream through the rest of this without getting lost in my own thoughts. Okay. So yeah. After Club Silencio, they go back to the room. They get the deep dive into the blue box, come out. Now the dream is over. We find out that, and we start to find out that these people are different than what we initially perceived. For instance, Coco, she's not actually the in charge of this apartment complex. She's actually Justin Theroux's mom. And so we find out more about the fact that Naomi Watts, she was involved with this. She came to Hollywood and she competed against this other actress to get this part. And I guess the Sylvia North Story, I think that was the name of the movie. She's under the impression that her rival slept her way to the top. And so that's the reason why she didn't get the role. And she becomes engaged in a relationship with this woman, which ends whenever she falls in love with this director and in front of everybody announces that they're going to get married and humiliates her. And so at that point, she orders the hit on Camilla. So I've been talking about Camilla. Every time I talk about this movie, I always get these women confused with who they are in the dream, and who they play. So it's 3 layers deep here. And so yeah, she orders the hit. It's pretty remarkable that Naomi Watts is so effective at whenever she's Betty, she acts really innocent, but then whenever she's actually acting like her real self in the real world, she's this freaked out kind of skittish personality. And then we get that really awesome scene where they're on top of each other on a couch, which is super sexy.
That scene I mean, okay, so that scene is okay. Yes, it's sexy because you have these two beautiful women, and that are naked. Okay,
Yep.
yes. But that weird suit is also weird because one second they're like talking and they're clothed, and then literally it cuts away and they're topless, and then they're on top of each other, and then all of a sudden Laura Harn's like, "What the fuck are you doing? I don't want this. Get off of me!" And it's like, "But you were just topless and like, hey, get on me," and then you're like, "Hey, get off me," and it's really fucking weird, and it's like really different than the last time they were naked, where
Which
um
was still in the dream.
which was still yeah, where she was like, "Yo, um, Naomi Watts used like every line a 16-year-old boy would get a girl to sleep with him with, which was like, hey, you don't have to sleep on the couch. I have this big old bed. Just come sleep with me, like next to
That's a
me."
good
And then
point.
which totally worked because she just drops the towel and then she's like, oh, and then they start kissing and she's like, I love you, and it's like, fuck is going on here? Like, and you know that was like super tender and sweet, and then this one's like not, and it's there's some juxtaposition, I guess, there, but that wasn't the dream. That was IRL. I guess Diane's life. That was Diane and Camila, not Betty and Rita. Or
So,
was it also in the dream?
I guess next I want to talk about the old people. Um, Now, I've heard different analyses where people get hung up on the fact that these are actually Naomi Watts' character's grandparents, and there's some like sexual abuse or something, which I don't necessarily buy into. I see because the old people aren't actually like related to her. They're just people that she runs into at the airport. And so my interpretation of this is that when she gets to Hollywood, there is like an expectation of like fandom. And so I think the old people represent like this idea of fame. So what happens is she orders this hit to go out. Whenever that's confirmed, we see the tramp character have the key in the bag, and then the old people come skirting out of the bag, which is this like idea of fame. The Naomi Watts character is consumed with guilt over the fact that she had this person killed, and because of fame, and this overwhelms her and causes her to, blow her brains out. You get the flashy light bulb, which is very common in David Lynch movies. You get the smoke, which is kind of peculiar, common with David Lynch movies. And that's it. The Hollywood dream has gone awry. She was felt forced to, have her rival killed over jealousy, and yeah, that's the Hollywood nightmare come to life. We cut to Clump Silencio, and we get Silencio, and it's over, and it's awesome. What say you?
I mean, no, obviously, look, clearly it's a good movie. I don't know when I'd be willing to sit through the 2.5 hours for that movie again. Like,
It goes by
just
so
talking
fast.
about it now, oof. The first part of it went by fast when it was a buddy cop movie. When it switched to the brain fuck, it
Really?
like I'm sitting here trying to figure out what's happening. Like it didn't feel like it was super long, but dude, it just oh my god, man, like it was like I didn't hate it or anything like that. Obviously, as you saw, I gave it a very, very good review on, Star Wise and all that.
Yeah.
But just
As soon as you
like
told me that it fucked up your head, I was thinking you were gonna put it down in the dumps, but yeah, it was not. So
no, no,
what
because
you gave it a four stars or 5 stars?
no, I gave it full five, but like,
Okay.
dude, like just talking about it right now made my head hurt. Like there's like I love a disjointed timeline as like clearly as a Tarantino fan, like I live in a disjointed timeline, there's a disjointed timeline, and then there's like disjointed timelines that aren't in the same movie, and I felt like there was disjointed timelines that weren't in the same movie, that weren't in the same trilogy, that weren't by the same director, all in this thing. Clearly, I mean, slightly hyperbolic, but like there's just
So what are some of the pieces where you're trying to find where they connect in?
I mean, we talked about some of them and we got to it, but like some of the stuff in the dream, just it. Oh my God, I probably would need to watch it again and maybe again and like.
I mean, you bring a good point is whenever they go to that lady who is apparently knows the person in the apartment who is dead, and they go in there and they see some clues in the apartment. Like that part kind of loses me. And I think you brought that up.
But like, legitimately, and this is just me personally, like again, and I've said this multiple times, between the two of us, I mean, there's a reason that I've made my handle on a lot of stuff Average Joey. Haha, because I'm clever or I'm dumb, whatever. Like I feel like I've taken the moniker of Average Joe's. Like I feel like I'm much more of the average person between the two of us when it comes to this stuff. You appreciate the art stuff more than I do, and my first challenge movie to you was the fucking Raid. I was like, hey, watch some dudes get the shit beat out of them. Like if I've got to watch a movie 2 times and listen to 17 YouTube podcasts for me to go, hey, I got what the hell the director was trying to say, and not because I'm dumb, because I'm not dumb. Maybe there's just too much fucking going on. Like, that's just me personally. Like, brother, you enjoyed it, cool. My roommate enjoyed it, great. Clearly there are people who enjoyed it, and there's lots of people, there's a criterion, and there's all those people and all those people who enjoyed it, and everybody else. Great. It's not a bad movie. Clearly, I don't think it's a bad movie, but I don't foresee myself in the near future like, hey, yo, let me go grab this off my roommate's Criterion shelf and shove this back in, or if it's on the channel, putting it on the channel and being like, yo, let me watch this again, because headache's not even the right word. Like my head was literally spinning. Like, so.
And it's interesting you bring up the whole Average Joe's movie moniker, because kind of how I come at it. I mean, I never went to film school. Basically, everything I know about film is from watching other film, listening to other opinions. So a movie like this can seem kind of lofty at first, but I guess I just come at it to the perspective is if you do, you do some research, you do some reading. Some of these pieces can kind of fall into place. So I think anything is really out there for the taking, I mean, and some people don't want to put like a lot of thought into movies and they just want to watch it and be done with it. But when and it all depends on your mood, really. I mean, one time I sat down to watch an hour and a half Ingmar Bergman film, and I was just expecting it to be easy breezy, and it like totally like sank me with like the level of emotion it threw at me. So, I mean, it all depends. I mean, everyone, different strokes, different folks, but yeah. I mean, I'm just like a normal guy who tries to be a movie critic in my spare life. So that's me as an average Joe.
Well, and like you, like outside of like obviously you do your family stuff and your camping and all of that stuff, but like your main thing is movies. But I also I play video games and I have all my other nerdy things with Magic the Gathering or whatever else that I do like where I said I've like delved into Bloodborne at the start of this. So not only am I playing Bloodborne, I'm actually watching Dan Giesling, who, if you know him probably from Big Brother fame, play Bloodborne. So I'm in videos behind where I am. So I'm also watching that, I'm also, I watch Grand Pooh Bear, play Super Mario, or I watched the new season of Sabrina. So that was 8 hours. That could have been 3 to 4 movies. There's a new season. The last season of Arrow is now on YouTube, not YouTube. Jesus Christ, Netflix.
So
I watch
you got a lot of
Hot
you got a lot of baskets. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, so I do a lot more stuff where if I was slightly more focused, and generally lately, like, Magic is falling kind of to the wayside. Gaming until Bloodborne had fallen to the wayside, except for some of my friends out like in New Mexico are like, hey, let's play this, let's play this online game, Overwatch, and I'm like, all right, cool, because that's the game I've been playing for like 4 years. Um, so which I'm really looking forward to when I
Which is
get
all
on
good.
that plane and don't die and land in New Mexico, and that'll be fun. First time later this year, but so yeah, there's a little bit more baskets. So like when you're like, yo, I watch these, listen to these like 7 podcasts, or I listen to these videos. It's like, all right, like I ain't mad at you for it, or by any means of the imagination. It's just I'm doing all this other stuff, and so it's like, all right, cool, brother. Especially this movie. All
Yeah.
right, so because the next movie we're going to talk about, like, we're probably going to breeze through that here. Not to try to say that it's not a worthy movie or anything like that, because that movie I thought was great, but like it's definitely not got the onion layers here that Mulholland has.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming at it from different perspectives. I mean, I've seen all of David Lynch's movies. I've seen this movie 3 times. And I'm the kind of type that, if something perplexes me, I'm going to spend like the whole next day listening about it and then try to write as thorough of an analysis as possible. So, I mean, everybody knows that's me, and that's me.
Well,
So,
you also probably have a longer commute to work, considering what city you live in. You have an office job, so you probably can sit and listen at work, whereas
True.
I can't. So I mean, some of our lifestyles like lend to that a little bit better.
yeah.
Like
I was
on the
actually
days where
working
I
from
open
home
at
when I
work.
first started all this, so that
Yeah.
was even more susceptible to listen to whatever I wanted to.
Yeah, and so like I have a 10-minute drive to work, so I could listen to people literally introduce themselves in a podcast, or I can listen to like 2 songs,
Mhm.
So, and then if I open, okay, I do have an hour, and maybe I could get into a podcast, or some days, that early in the morning is like, you know what? No, I need to wake up. I need to hype. So,
So, have you seen Eraserhead yet?
no, I've seen literally these two Lynch films, the Blue Velvet and this one, which this one I thought was much better, but I don't know on my own how much more Lynch I will be searching out.
I would actually recommend Dune for you next.
Not saying I will never watch another one, but
Did you know? Did you know David Lynch was actually George Lucas's first pick for Return of the Jedi?
oh wow, no.
Yep, because David Lynch directed Dune, and then George Lucas sought him out for Return of the Jedi, which didn't happen. But I would give Dune a shot. Dune is kind of an interesting take on Lynch's sensibilities in kind of a sci-fi world. He has a big range, so Eraserhead is definitely a classic as well. But we've talked Lynch, and we've talked Lynch, and we talked Lynch. So let's talk some Burton. So you challenged me to Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, also known as Sweeney Todd. This is a 2007 film. It's an adaptation of a musical period slasher, which was Tony Award winning way back in 1979. The film retells the Victorian melodramatic tale of Sweeney Todd, an English barber and serial killer who murders his customers with a straight razor, and with the help of his accomplice, Miss Lavette, processes their corpses into meat pies. So the film stars Johnny Depp, obviously Tim Burton's muse there, Helena Bonham Carter, also a Tim Burton regular, and Sweeney Todd. So I don't know. You want to kick it off from here?
All right. So if you remember, I challenged you to this because you hadn't seen it. So we actually went back to the OG challenge scheme of you hadn't seen this movie. Hadn't really done many musical things here, and I thought it'd be kind of cool. So the movie itself, you kind of start off. You got this young lad, and young lad Anthony, and you got Johnny Depp on a boat. Not my favorite movie that starts with Johnny Depp on a boat, but that's neither here nor there. And they're singing, they're coming into London, get off the boat. He starts wandering around. He finds Mrs. Lovett's place. For the exactness of it, I can't remember. She find out her pies are trash, like the worst in London. I'm not going to do my bad London accent because all my accents are terrible. They all sound the same. But you find out the backstory that, he was married to this beautiful woman. They had a child. And then that bastard, Alan Rickman, every character he plays, except for the Metatron, is a bastard.
Snipe's not so
covets
bad.
His wife. He's bad for like 7 of those 8 movies.
All right.
I mean, or at least he acts like he's bad. Whatever. One of the quote for the people who didn't grow up with Star Wars, I guess that's like the biggest cinematic reveal in history, right? Anyway, so he's a judge, that being Alan Rickman's character, Judge Turbin.
Yep.
He has another. By the way, this is also we were talking about the Sandlot was just the Lion King. This is just a haven for all the villains from Harry Potter. By the way, Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham Carter, Alan Rickman, Beetle Bailey. I can't remember that guy's name. I apologize. I'm a horrible person. Whatever. So you got all these Harry Potter villains in London, which I guess is appropriate. But so Judge Turbin, Alan Rickman, they arrest Benjamin Barker, which is Sweeney Todd's real name. They arrest him on some false pretenses, and they ship him the hell off for 15 years. Homegirl gets pissed, or I guess not pissed, but she gets distraught. She drinks some poison, and she dies. And Judge Turbin, being the gracious judge that he is, adopts the girl. That is the story that Miss Lovett spins to the now returning Sweeney Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Finds his razors.
Does he really look so different?
I mean, it's been 15 years. He's got a name change. People forget. He's got the gray streak. He's probably, he's pale. Maybe he's got some scars. He's looking like Edward Scissorhands or something. IDK.
Works for Clark Kent, right?
I mean, bruh, have you seen Zooey Deschanel when she doesn't have the bangs and stuff? She looks completely different. So I guess it does work for Clark Kent. But anywho.
Okay. So this is the part of the movie where I actually started getting interesting because, I don't know, I thought that first quarter of it was a little... I mean, I was kind of tired when I started it, but I kind of thought that first part dragged a little bit.
I mean, I was into it because, I'll be real, this is my second time watching this movie, and this was, the first time since, on DVD, when it came out. So,
okay.
Yeah, this was the first time in a long time. I literally remembered nothing other than... It was a musical. They killed people, put them in meat pies. I didn't even remember Alan Rickman was in this movie because his name popped up on the credits, and I was like, "Yo!" Mm-hmm.
So then when it gets spicy is whenever what Sweeney gets into a shaving contest with Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
And he wins that. And then what Sacha challenges him.
By the way, I think sandbags the whole thing. Yeah, because he challenges Sacha Baron Cohen. Sacha Baron Cohen is just like fucking dominating him and just going to town, and all of a sudden you see him win, and yeah, like he wins five pence. He wins some money, and then he shows up and he's like, "Bro, I know who you are. I used to be in the store. If I want half your earnings, or I'm gonna expose you."
Oh yeah, I forgot about the
And
blackmail part.
Yeah, and then he just slaughters him.
Yeah, so if you're not a Borat fan, you're smiling pretty big right now with seeing Sacha Baron's blood spewing all over the place.
Blood. Yeah, the Ali G show is over. Sorry, Isla Fisher, your hubby is dead. And then he maybe not in this exact order, but he concocts the murder chair. And I was like, where did he learn how to do this? I'm assuming he just learned it when he was overseas somewhere, not in London.
I didn't really. So why exactly do they want to put why do they want to start killing random? So the judge comes and like they almost have him, but something comes up, so he leaves. And they're like, all right, so now let's kill as many people as possible. It's like, okay.
That's where the subplot interacts with the main plot. So the subplot is that Anthony, the young man that was on the boat who saved Benjamin Barker, was Sweeney Todd, had been walking around London and he got lost and he sees this girl in a house. Turns out that girl is the ward of Judge Turbin, and that ward, as we know from earlier, is Sweeney's
daughter.
He starts singing a song, and as in movies and as in that time period goes, he falls in love with her instantly. Well, Homegirl sees him. She also falls in love with him instantly. Well, Judge Turbin's like, hey, I see you, calls him in, basically says, if I ever see you on the street again, I'll kill you, or I'll have you arrested, or both, something of that combination, blah, 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 blah. Well, he's like, hey, I'm dumb. I'm going to go up against this insanely rich and powerful man all by my effing lonesome. So he's back out there again. Homegirl drops a key. Judge Turbin sees it because he's got her locked in this room with a peephole. Well, Judge Turbin is getting a shave from Sweeney because Beetle Bailey, whatever, I don't remember his
recommended
name.
him, right?
Recommended him after Homeboy kicked Sacha Baron Cohen's ass. And right when he's actually giving him the shave, he's savoring it, he's taking his time. Basically, he's being a greedy boy. He's not managing his green bar. He's not managing his green bar. And Homeboy busts in the door and he's like, hey, girl's gonna run away with me. And then he gets up, he's like, you keep terrible company, I'm never coming back here again. Runs away. And then I guess they decide that because the other woman puts cats in her pies and the meat's expensive, that they can kill people and put them in the pies and they can make money and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how that comes about.
Yeah. So this is the best part of the movie where we start to see Sweeney start slitting throats left and right with blood spraying all over the place. Typically, slit throats, you always just give me the heebie-jeebies in movies, but you kind of get dull to it in this because you see it time after time after time. But what's even hilarious, what's the hilarious part is, he has this chair that flips people over into this hole, and we see people totally thud on the ground, splat, and that's pretty hilarious to see all these people just splat against the floor. So that goes on for a while, which was pretty entertaining.
The other thing of that is the way that they drop. I mean, they've already had their throat slit, but that drop definitely breaks their neck.
Yeah.
So, he's overkilling them. So they could just, throw them with the chair and crack their neck. But, that comes into play later when, actually, I think it might have been Judge Turbin doesn't die. But that's the end game part of the movie. I forgot that Sacha Baron Cohen's, boy, I guess it's not his son, but I guess it's his working boy, his indentured servant, slave, whatever you want to call him.
Okay.
Now,
I'm trying to
now is
remember where he
working.
came from.
Yeah, he came from Sacha Baron Cohen, the great Italian guy, the great Italian barber. Um, Now ends up working at the Miss Lovett's pie shop slash Sweeney Todd's barber shop. That'll come into play later. Um,
Not too much later.
we-
Whenever he finds
yeah,
the
well,
finger,
you
right?
know,
That's when he starts
yeah,
getting.
he starts noticing some stuff off with Sweeney Todd, and he tells Miss Lovett that he'll protect her and that Sweeney's a demon. You know, he's the demon, and I'll protect you. And she's like, "Nah, love, I'll protect you. Everything's gonna be fine." And she's like, "Hey, come down here and learn how to bake pies." And then she tells Sweeney that he knows, and we got to be careful. And then he sees the finger or the thumb, and then he puts everything together, and they go to find him, and he's escaped. And then at this point, Sweeney he sent a letter to Judge Turbin telling him that Anthony's trying to get the girl, and he sent Anthony to the mental institution to get the girl under the guise that he's a wig maker. And now he has Anthony. Not he doesn't have Anthony. He has Turbin. But the old lady, the old crazy lady who's been in the background the whole movie's there. And he tries to tell her to leave. And he slashes her throat, slashes Turbin's throat, throws them both down the hole. Not quite in that order. Well, he slashes Oldman's throat, Turbin shows up, slashes his throat. Somewhere in there he slashes Beetle's throat. I don't remember exactly where, that was less important.
And then we find out that the lady was actually his wife, so he gets pissed at Helen Bonham Carter, throws her in the furnace, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then we got a cool scene where his wife's bleeding out and he's holding her, and that's the end of the movie.
Well, a little boy comes and slits his throat.
Yeah. Oh, that's a
And
throat
he's
slitting.
bleeding out because she's already dead. She's super dead. And then he's dead.
Did you like the
guess
music in this
Anthony-
thing?
Say again?
Did you like the music in this thing?
Yeah. Generally speaking, most musical movies I've enjoyed the music. Even like Rock of Ages, which is like terrible. Like I like that movie. So
The only song I remember is the whole Pretty Women thing. I think my favorite song was like whenever they were like singing something sinister about when they were going to murder everybody and put them in the pies. Like, but for like this murderous rampage movie.
Like that scene where they're actually going to murder everybody. They made a lot of like references in different ways that was really cool. I don't remember the song, but then the main song I remember was like London is a deep dark pit and it's filled with people full of shit. I remember that.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's definitely a murderous rampage revenge movie, and we know how I feel about revenge movies.
I just thought like the music seemed kind of like sing-song, lyrical, like hopeful stuff for this murderous rampage kind of movie. But at the same end, like I think about it and I'm like, maybe he sings all sweetly to like lure in these people to his shop. I don't know. Sometimes with these musicals, it's not until the second time you watch it where like some of the music actually gets more catchy. So I'm kind of counting on that being a fact for me.
My understanding is that especially in the musical, the musical is it plays up that it's a little bit more comedic of how just over the top and ridiculous that it is, and some of that's lost in the movie, and it doesn't translate with the songs to what's on the screen, because obviously it's got that serious tone and that Burton overture. It's serious, and I don't want to use the word gothic, but I guess Victorian gothic feel, and it doesn't
it's very
have that hilarious
gray and gothic.
So like some of that, a little bit of that is lost from going from the musical to the movie.
And then
I've never seen the musical.
Yeah,
But
neither have I. With looking for some screenshots for this movie, I was reminded of the part where they're like on the beach and he's like looking miserable, and there's actually some color in the shot. So I guess that's a little bit it's supposed to be a little funny.
yeah, that's the scene actually. Yeah, that whole thing where it looks like Beetlejuice, but that whole scene is, especially in the theater, apparently is like playing up just how over the top ridiculous the whole premise is, that they're murdering people and putting them into pies. Like yeah.
I mean, so overall,
So
yeah, I rated it 4 stars. I thought once it got to the whole like throat slitting part, it was pretty crazy, and a lot of fun and pretty hilarious whenever they got dumped down into the basement. Pretty heartbreaking scene there at the end with him holding his wife that he thought was dead the whole time. I guess the music might catch on to me more the next time, but I mean, that part I guess was kind of underwhelming. So I'm glad I watched it. I mean, it's a Burton film I hadn't seen. I definitely want to see all Burton's films at some point. I'm not sure which ones I haven't seen, but yeah, he's a great director. I've seen Nightmare Before Christmas more times than I can remember.
I also gave it 4 stars. I've seen some of his movies. It's been a very long time since I've seen Nightmare Before Christmas, but you, since we're here, should go look at that. That's not a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah,
That is
that
like a big
he
misnomer. He
I
wrote the poem on which it's based.
it's the Nightmare Before Christmas by Tim Burton, but yes, it is directed by somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. Haha, got you. Just sorry. Just shoot me. It's fine. All right.
All right,
So
so we'll move into the next
I
part
guess
now.
it's me picking the movie, right?
No, it's I challenge you.
Oh, you're gonna challenge me first. Okay.
Right.
Cool.
So I had a lot of movies that I was thinking about, and so I'm gonna leave it up to chance. So I picked 10 movies I could possibly challenge you with, and I'm gonna have the randomizer pick three, and I'm gonna pick my favorite of the three. So we have Visitor Q by Takashi Miike. That's I've heard very messed up. It's on my cringe movie bucket list. We have Breaking the Waves, which is a Lars von Trier. It's one of my favorite films from him. One of the ones I was gonna maybe do for you was Ivan's Childhood. I really wanted to introduce you into Tarkovsky, although he's kind of has these slow kind of he's very slow Russian cinema. So that's Tarkovsky for you. We have Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World. Parasite, which just won the Oscar. Yi, which is a Singapore film, I believe. Serpico, which is an Al Pacino film I haven't seen, which I've heard a lot about. On the Silver Globe, which is like this foreign film sci-fi that the poster looks awesome, so I've been interested about. John Malkovich is one of my favorite films that's on the list. And then Run Lola Run, which was another one of the top ones I was thinking about challenging you with. But we'll bring it to the randomizer.
Please run, Lola, run. Please.
All right, so let's see what the randomizer says after 3 shuffles. Okay. So after shuffle 1, it says Ivan's Childhood. After shuffle 2, it says Being John Malkovich. Wow. And then after shuffle 3, it says Breaking the Waves. Wow. So either Ivan's Childhood, Breaking the Waves, or Being John Malkovich. All 3 I've seen, and my initial pick was to do a Tarkovsky film. So for next time, we'll do Ivan's Childhood, which has some gorgeous cinematography. It's a great entry point to Tarkovsky, and yeah, it's a war film. It's a kid in war film. So yeah, let's see what you think of a little Ivan's Childhood. It's not too long, so So it's a good entry point for that director. He has some great films like Solaris and Stalker and Mirror and stuff. But I thought maybe to introduce you to him, maybe start with one of his more mainstream films. So Ivan's Childhood for next time.
Okay, and before we move on to me picking the main feature, so I sent you that package.
Right.
All right, two things are in it. One is a David Lynch movie that I found in my value shopping. It's Inland Empire. That's just because I figured you would appreciate it. I don't know if you have it already. If you do,
is it a Blu-ray?
Cool. No, it's a DVD, but it was $1. So that's for you. The second one, and I have it, and I said it. This is important. This is for next episode.
Okay.
Don't open it until we record again, because that's for the movie for when I challenge you next time. And I bought it for you. It is a Blu-ray. I shipped it to you. I bought it for myself as well because it's impossible to find online to stream. So I bought it, shipped it to you.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's cool. We good. You shipped me a movie. I shipped you a movie. We're good. Just want to make sure that you're going to open it at this time in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whenever the hell we record again. So,
got it.
Now, yeah, because that's the last, I guess until season 3, if we bring the challenge back, that's my last challenge. So I did something for it.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad the challenge is going away.
Well, we'll bring it back in season 3
right.
if we need to. Season 2, I like that we got a theme thing going on for season 2, so that'll be cool.
Right all right, so
just be prepared if you want to do something big for your last challenge, whatever. So yeah, okay. You only got 2 movies left. Yep. I guess you only got 2 movies left.
Kicking and Screaming and Army of Shadows, and you like
that is
La Samurai, and that's the same director of Army of Shadows, so I'm not sure if you're like saving that for last or what's going on here.
I'm picking Army of Shadows for this one.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where we're going. So I guess we're have Army of Shadows and Army of Shadows and Ivan's Childhood for
episode 18.
Next episode 18. So it looks like we're having dueling war movies. I'm assuming that's a war movie.
No, 2 foreign films. I'm not sure what Army of Shadows is about. It has a pretty sweet Criterion cover. Criterion's actually re-releasing that on Blu-ray soon. What?
Yeah. Trapped in a torturous Nazi prison camp, tries to escape to rejoin the resistance in occupied Marseille, France, and exacts his revenge on the informant. He must continue a quite seamless, endless battle against the Nazis in an atmosphere of tension, paranoia, and distrust. And the picture on the background is a dude, several dudes holding the big guns with the guys feeding the bullets into it. So, I mean, it's got some sort of war.
Sounds a lot better than like Samurai.
Yo, dude, Le Samurai was hot, fam.
That movie is like so slow.
Says the guy who just gave out like 5 pages about a movie about some girl's fantasy about Hollywood. Again, different strokes, different folks. So yeah, here we are. So yes, I would pick Army of Shadows.
Nice. Have you seen any Noah Baumbach movies?
Let's find out. It's not real hard to find out. The internet will tell me. No, I have not.
Okay. I was seeing if there was any reason you left Kicking and Screaming towards the end.
Because I read it and I thought it was cool. Oh, and he's got this movie up here that I've been wanting to watch. That I haven't watched yet, but I've been very much meaning to watch.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool. All right. Thanks so much, everyone that's following the show. If you want to join the Movie Clubcast, make sure to hit subscribe. Hopefully, our saying, misnaming Rita, Betty, Naomi Watts, and all those all the different names in Mulholland Drive. Hopefully that didn't drive you crazy. Probably should have had a cheat sheet, but hopefully you followed along. It was all a dream within a dream. We'll go with that.
I did.
You had a cheat sheet?
Oh yeah, no. I wrote down notes, and I specifically wrote down that Betty and Diane was one person, and that Rita and Camila was one person, and that Camila in the dream was Melissa George. So, because again, that movie was nuts.
All right, so if they want to get in touch with us, Joey, how do they do that?
You got a couple of ways. So the main way is the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast at gmail.com. Please, we want your emails. We want your feedback. You can also comment beneath on YouTube. You can go to our Facebook page, which then also there's just a button you can press, and it takes you right to that email. If you follow us on Letterboxd, which we talk about all the time, please follow us on there. You can leave us comments on there. If you know us personally, you can follow us on Facebook. Whatever. There's 100 ways. Hundreds. Well, not hundreds. I'm hyperbolic. Lots of ways. Follow us.
We'll take it anywhere we can get it.
Basically, especially me, I'm a whore that way. Justin, not so much, but whatever. And if you're listening on, one of the other ways that's not YouTube, if you're on Apple, Buzzsprout, Spotify, iHeartRadio, come to the Facebook page, come to YouTube to leave a comment. We'll greatly appreciate it. Winding down here at the end of the first season, and we do greatly appreciate all of your guys' support, listening to us ramble about the stuff we love, which is movies, even if we do disagree sometimes on some of this stuff.
We disagreed. It was both 5 stars.
Oh, I mean, I just meant in general, not necessarily this movie. Although you like the movie, I don't necessarily. I think my brain is somewhere in just like down Irby Street or something.
And like if you have Android, you can download Podcast Addict, and it has like every podcast on there imaginable, including us. So yeah, go to Podcast Addict and hook yourself up with the Average Joes and listen on your 10 minutes commute to work, right?
Yeah, especially wherever especially if you got a good commute, you can just listen to us. If you're like me and you got a 5-minute drive to work, we may not be the way to go for a commute, but we appreciate it.
Yeah, get some of those earbuds, sneak in while you're sweeping the back room of the store or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let's bring an end to this whole thing. Happy movie watching. Let's go.
Good night, everybody. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non mi piace il feeling. Spirito di salti.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.